Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Expanding Opportunities for Careers in Forestry and Environmental Protection. This is a program of the Taking Nature Black Conference, which is a program of the Audubon Naturalist Society. We are so excited to see all of you out there today. You are in for a treat. We have an incredible panel of speakers who are going to be sharing their experiences about reentry, the prison experience, and what's necessary for healing ourselves, our land, and our world. This conversation extends beyond just a particular program, but really to what kind of human beings we are being as we engage the reentry community. So I wanted to share that we are going to get the program started, and in keeping with our 2021 Taking Nature Black Conference theme of call and response, as our speakers are speaking, we're going to ask you to post your responses in the chat. And then we will ask you to save your questions for the Q&A, which will come after all of our speakers have had a chance to speak. So without further ado, we're going to go on with our program. And our first speaker of today is Beatrice Wilson, who is an Assistant Director of Urban and Community Forestry for the U.S. Forest Service, which is our partner and sponsor for today's event.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Carolyn. Many thanks to the Audubon Naturalist Society also for helping us with this event, but not just this event, this subject that is so significant to the program I lead. I'm the Assistant Director of Urban and Community Forestry at U.S. Forest Service. And one of the opportunities I have is to find out different ways to engage with our community, those we've successfully engaged with, and those that we have continued to miss the mark and advance the program in some of our most disadvantaged and vulnerable communities. I've been a longtime fan, friend, and participant of the Taking Nature Black Conference platform. And in 2020, when we had an opportunity to reconnect for the last conference, I specifically challenged Caroline to share with me how we could be part of the solution. Because although the conference was such a safe space for everyone, there were recurring challenges, and I wanted to know how we, as an urban and community forestry assistance program, could help in the space of some of those challenges that continue to bubble up. And so from that conversation came this series of roundtables where we're hopefully able to be part of a solution for what has been heard and or experienced by the many participants and friends of the Taking Nature Black Conference platform. So as this roundtable is talking about reentry, and we're thinking about the communities that the urban and community forestry was designed and is designated to serve and assist. This is coming to us after 2020, a year of social unrest following the murder of George Floyd, a year of social disparity as we watch so many suffer in the disparities around the COVID pandemic. And then also at the end of the year, seeing a new election take place over the United States, one that has a platform built pretty heavily on around social justice. And so as a federal and a partner and a public servant, there's a responsibility to make sure that we are taking care of every community eligible for the assistance of this program. And so, it's when we think about the demographics of urban communities, we absolutely positively want to think about the entire demographic, the entire community. And there has been such an interest from young people who are interested in conservation, from folks who would like to retool and enter into land to urban forestry and green infrastructure. And so this is a huge opportunity for people like myself who lead a national program to listen, to learn, and to hopefully lead more inclusively moving forward after what I've heard. This is something new. Caroline, when you sent out the invitation, it is something new, but it's also very necessary. And so thank you, Audubon Naturalist Society, for taking what was a quick phone call and making out to be this amazing roundtable. I was thrilled when I saw the agenda last night. I'm so appreciative of your time, and to everyone, all of the panelists, thank you. Whatever you're putting in the room, again, I share this to my colleagues as a masterclass for us to make sure that we're effective in the communities that we have chosen a career to lead and to serve in urban and community forestry. So Carolyn, thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Also appreciate everyone joining us today.
Thank you so much. We are really proud to work with you on this program. So thank you. At this time, we will have a poem to open up our discussion by K2 Audubon.
Good afternoon. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to be included in this roundtable, especially in this time of challenge and this time of environmental upheaval. It's so important for me, given the 50th anniversary of the Attica uprising, to be a part of this panel. And this poem is called Rise, Human Art. Freedom is not something that anybody can be given. Freedom is something that people take, and people are as free as they want to be. James Baldwin. Prison is a school of art to woke students of life, an academy of hard knocks, life and language entangled. Prison brings consciousness to space and time, is place where personality wakes up to identify its ego nest and disintegrate it into goneness. Language becomes imprisoned identity, becomes manifest, becomes a lashing tongue, becomes seeing eyes, being I am, the be of I, the be of am, be. The doing the human assumes as clarity is given to see its splendor in an open door, a free willing at a crossroad portal, a choice to be or not to be reborn. But how to be when caged alive and not be in a cage defined by steel and iron words? Ideas that shackle, X out, emasculate, violate, terminate, misappropriate, disintegrate self-perception, pretending social rehabilitation, pretending a savior's grace. The wipeout, to be wiped clean, to be made tabula rasa, to be human is art, is function, friction, faction, fiction, fusion. Words in the joint be the living fuel that regulates and counts, is normed in time to always watching eyes, watching, and being watched, watching the inside witness, outside spy. To be in prison is meditative space for self-aware soldiers harnessed to the glare of savaged men harvesting scared keepers and wardens manipulating body-mind. The Black body alive and building muscle, putting fat on heads, presence, reading, reasoning, rationalizing, ritualizing. Writing self-concept, writing deeds done, writing to read thoughts, read actions, become inclinations, reader, intuitions, motive force. My thoughts, mythos in the wide metaphysic of Selly's thoughts, yard boy thoughts, screws and chaplain thoughts, cliquish gang thoughts creeping, sparrows thoughts on a high wire looking in. My metaphysic always reading the body, eating living words, sustained living, studying the sound inside the silence, shaping lived experience. My life in the bell curve of fear and exaltation, presence, breathing, essence, experience. The I am transformer, eyes to be I, within all my relations, all my ancestors, every body cell, every universal field of motion, prison cut off from grounding earth and enlightened sky, is seat for searching dysphonic mayhem's mental caves, masquerading witness to the upper hand, knowing I am and daily gaining force, learning how to be present and invisible, living free, caged. Encaged is to be self-engaged, unvexed, unregulated, uncounted, unwatched, a live wire resistant, alive within years that pile up with a slowness, years that mount heaven's stairs, every thought a hell's gate, years that become graying hairs in the mirror's days, years of days, searching for sacred relations to reason, to overstand process and be self, relaxed, repaired, regenerated, resurrected from delusion, the human self, charged with breath, Kundalini's fire rising, spiraling through spinning chakras, surmounting systems, barbaric human colonies, and reordered kill orders. Life eclectic, rising from mayhem. Destiny herself dispels hate's enslaving dysfunction. Solitary stare becomes an amen enclave, a prophet's gazebo. From this calculated scientific sentence, from this gift of day's newborn ways, this disambiguating clarity of self, rising, I rise, striding beyond prison gates, beyond the clanging iron haunt of imprisoned footsteps. Still, I rise to walk free. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may tread me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Angelou. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that poem, K2. And I'm going to invite our audience to express their responses in our chat. Some of the themes that come up for me in that poem are repair, regeneration, obviously rising, and that to be human is an art. Such powerful words and thoughts. And I think they couldn't be more appropriate for our discussion today. As I met with each of our speakers and listened to their stories and read about their stories, there was a theme of rebirth that was in every story. And even before everyone got together, K2 produced this poem, and it's just remarkable how clear it is that rebirth needs to be a part of this process. Rebirth, new birth, and even dying, letting go of some of the ideas that we've held about ourselves as individuals, about one another as parts of communities, and even about institutions. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Marcus Elam, who is the Regional Administrator for Institutions with the Virginia Department of Correction. And he's going to talk to us about ways that new thinking and new engagement are happening with reentry in Virginia. Thank you, Marcus, for being with us.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's truly an honor to, first even be asked to be a part of this this forum. And it's an honor for me to represent the Department of Corrections and really give an idea to you all about who we are as a department and who we are as an agency and what we're about. And we talk about rebirth and evolving, and that's kind of the story that I want to talk about today, because that's what we've done as an agency. I've been with our department for over 28 years and served in various roles. And I'm so proud to be a part of an agency that has evolved and truly has an understanding of what we should be about and what our mission is. And we've used a lot of fancy words over the years to, develop a mission for the Department of Corrections. And that's kind of the trend in business to do that. But our director, Harold Clark, when we looked at revising what our mission is, put it in great terms when he coined the phrase, our business is to help people be better. And everything we do and every decision that we make, every interaction that we have, should ask ourselves, is that in line with our mission? Did what I say or what I do or the decision I make really help someone be better? And that's really what our agency is about. And again, I'm just honored to be able to represent our agency because I think it's important to what this forum is talking about, especially in terms of rebirth and evolving over time to really focus on what we're here about. And that's individuals who want to get better and do better for themselves as well as for the community. So I really, truly appreciate being a part of this process. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Marcus. We are going to be hearing from you later in this panel, but thank you for that introduction. Next, we'd like to have Ms Shabazz, who is a consultant with First Alliance Consulting, introduce herself and talk about her experiences and why she's here.
Greetings, everyone. As Ms. Caroline stated, I am Ms Shabazz. I'm a human rights activist and have been for over 2 decades, both on the national level and the international level when it comes to human rights. I'm also a legal advocate and a criminal injustice, I call it injustice reform advocate. And actually, my advocacy spawns across many different areas. Wherever there's a need, I show up. And so I really don't have just one area where I work in. I am the founder of First Alliance Consulting, Criminal and Justice Reform Network, One City, One Voice, the Coalition for Families Against Child Separation. And I also have a small business, PS Pink Saw. My mission is to eradicate injustice everywhere, especially in the judicial system, and especially when it comes to the Department of Corrections. I am a policy writer. I go to the General Assembly every year. I am very familiar with Mr. Harold Clark and our Secretary of Homeland Security, Mr. Brian Moran. And as a formerly incarcerated woman who is a single mother, it has been an incredible time trying to define yourself after incarceration, because there's like a stigma around, you, it's like a scarlet letter. Thank God things are changing now when it comes to those stigmas. And I am a huge component of not being that moment in time when you committed a mistake. You are so much more than that. And so I pride myself on pushing that narrative to our politicians and our governmental officials who seem to constantly ignore that narrative, to continue to further incarcerate Black and brown people and people as a whole. We do know that that the nation is the largest warehousers of human beings. And that is something that we have to most definitely consider when we write these missions that continue to gobble up human beings in our system. And so at this time, I will pass and we'll get into this panel.
Thank you so much, Bakura. You're absolutely right. That is one of the reasons we're here. We are here to talk about the value of every human being. The United States has the unfortunate distinction of incarcerating the most people per capita in the world. And that's something that is damaging to communities, to families, to people's futures. It's damaging to our economy for people who want to think about it in those terms. So having a successful and a meaningful reentry program, among other policies and practices that could happen throughout the experience with prison and law enforcement, is absolutely essential to our future as a nation. So with that, we'd like to bring Brady Mitchell forward, who has some experience working as a master trainer with the Roots of Success.
Good morning, everyone. This morning here in Washington State. First of all, I would like to say thank you. Man, I just feel so honored and privileged to be in the company of such amazing people. Brother K2, the word was very, very profound and definitely drew a picture for me, very clear picture. And you eloquently gave the audience a picture of that journey. So my name, like I said, my name is Brady Mitchell. I work for Roots of Success. I'm program and reentry program coordinator, excuse me. Let me just calm down for a minute. So you guys got me intimidated. I just need to get into my element here. So, so it seems to be a common thread with the first two panelists that introduced themselves, and I guess that's Harold Clark, because Harold Clark also was the Secretary of the Department of Corrections here. I was incarcerated at the age of 34. I'm now 62. I was released in January of this year. So I guess I could say I have my AA, my BA, my AA, and my master's and doctorates in incarceration. And so amazingly, they consider me some type of expert. I now volunteer for the Department of Corrections here in Washington State, developing policy. Man, this is, I thank Caroline for the invite. You know, it's really important to understand for the staff that goes home every day, for the men that are incarcerated, for the friends and family, that there's a healing that has to take place. And that healing is what bridges a gap. And that gap is where so many of us fall into. And so I guess it's appropriate to say, I'm on a mission, man, to put DOC out of business. Okay, is it realistic? Who knows? But and that's done by prevention, and that's done by getting an understanding of why we do what we do, and get even better understanding of our connection, not only just to the planet, but to everyone as a whole. I think once we get to the point, I use the term Caroline, cross-pollination of communication, where we can begin to understand each other, where we can begin to actually sit down and have conversation and appreciate the gifts that we all have. Man, just imagine where we'd be. My current capacity, I am a master trainer for Roots of Success. And in that program, I actually see men from all ages, men from all cultures, men from all educational backgrounds, gang affiliated, white, Black, Mexican, Asian, and they actually come in to the classroom. And when they come in with the mores of prison. They come in bringing it with them. But then it's up to us as facilitators and teachers, if you will, instructors, to demand professionalism. And you'd be amazed at the response to that. You'll be amazed at the outcome to that they begin to appreciate the individual that they sit next to. They begin to understand that individual. And then they begin to work collaboratively with the group and become to develop ideas and suggestions that help improve our environment. So thank you. I won't go too long into in depth, so thank you. I just really appreciate being here. And this is truly an honor for me, for someone that's 37 years. 37 years. I'm I'm humbled.
Thank you, Brady. We are honored to have you here. And I would just like to add, if you have an opportunity to Google Brady's story and Alex's story, stories that are available on the web, you're going to see the tremendous transformation that these men in particular have gone through to be here and to be doing the work that they're doing with others who've had the prison experience. They are truly part of the healing that's necessary, that's critical. And I just want to say thank you, Brady, for your courage and your strength and your willingness to be a part of the work that we're doing here. Another woman who is also involved in doing work with reentry communities is Shelly Thomas. She's the Assistant Director of Culture and Climate for Power Corps in Philadelphia. Shelly.
Good afternoon, and thank you again, Caroline, for this prestigious invitation. I'm so honored to be a part of this panel discussion, and thank you for to the Audubon Naturalist Society for creating this opportunity. As Caroline said, Shelly Thomas, I am the Assistant Director of Culture and Climate at Power Corps PHL. I've been affiliated with Education Works, who is the operating agency for Power Corps, working and training, supervising various AmeriCorps programs and federally funded grant initiatives for over 24 years. I've worked in recruitment, training, operations, you name it. And I began my career in behavioral medicine. I'm a youth advocate, self-care guru, contributing writer to Emerging Black magazine, and a published author of a children's book. But my most favorite jobs, I'm a wife and a parent of 4 adult children and 3 grandchildren. Power Corps launched in September 2013 as a cross-sector collaborative model that engages disconnected young adults and returning citizens to enter and succeed in career pathways by using service as the strategy. It was designed to support former Mayor Michael Nutter's environmental stewardship initiatives, as well as youth violence prevention and workforce development priorities. Annually, Power Corps enrolls 136 at-risk 18 to 30-year-olds in a 4 to 20-month AmeriCorps program that provides participants with the opportunity to develop the skills required to become environmental stewards, secure meaningful work, and become civically engaged members of society. During their AmeriCorps term of service, participants work with partner city departments to tackle pressing environmental challenges, including the need for improved stormwater management, increased tree coverage, recreation centers, refurbishment, and revitalized public lands. Upon completion of their service terms, alumni receive intensive transition support designed to enhance their chances for success in career track employment, post-secondary education, and/or national service. The first phase is foundation with an option to exit. The second phase is they gain fellowships and post-secondary education support, or they go into industry academies such as Green Stormwater Infrastructure, the Solar Academy, our Masonry Academy, and our Urban Forestry Academies. Or the third option is to become an assistant crew leader, which is a supervisor within our program. And then after that phase, we're launching them into a career. Then we also have another component to Power Corps, which is called Trust. And the acronym for that word is the Road to an Ultimate Successful Transition. It's a Power Corps initiative, and that's also for our 18 to 30-year-olds who live in Philly. When they become a part of Trust, the purpose of it is to help members become acclimated prior to coming into our foundations program. And in a lot of cases, reentry citizens are coming directly into the program from prison. We're having a lot of success, and we found that it is more helpful for them to come through that phase and help them and get them ready for training, help them overcome some barriers and challenges prior to coming into foundations. So while they're in that program, it's not the same. Power Corps is a full-time program. Trust is 10 to 12 hours a week, $50 per session, in person and virtual. And we provide urban farming, workplace skill building, and virtual community building. And as well as Healing Hurt, which is a program operated by Drexel University for individuals who have been affected and afflicted by violence. So they participate in that program twice a week. So the thing that I have come to be amazed at while doing this work is the transformation from the time that someone hits the soil for the first time and they bring the street and they bring that bravado and all of that and hit the soil for the first time and start to discover things about themselves. And to see hundreds of young people now who have gone through this process and, started with, in a broken place in a lot of cases, because as Bakura said, the stigma being attached, it's not just attached on the outside, it's attached on the inside. And one of the things that Power Corps has done is creates a safe space so that members can work on that brokenness, address a lot of the barriers to their success, and also find supports. And one of the things that has really driven the success of this program has been those supports. So we built in the supportive services department that includes an amazing member services clinician, Jasmine Oglesby. We have a director of reentry services who is forging partnerships with judges and with our district attorney, Larry Krasner in Philadelphia. So there is becoming this amazing pipeline and supports to have members come into this process, but also teach them and help them build and prepare for this process. And then, like I said, the mission is to create that safe space for them and have, staff partnered in that process. So it truly is a collaborative model, not just within our organization, but within the city departments that the members work in and serve in. And so I'm excited. My mission is, to help members grow and heal beyond the barriers to prepare them for a career. And we've successfully done it to the point we have a young man that's actually sitting on the board of the core network. And he, in 2014, he was just, dealing with coming out of prison, losing his mother, and not exactly knowing where he was going, because his participation in our sessions was literally negated. He just couldn't function. And when he finally came to us, because it was brought to our attention, and actually, we were so distraught because we didn't know what to do with him. He wasn't participating. We were asking if this was a good fit and whether or not this was the time for him to be a part of that program. And that's when we found out that his mother passed away. That's when we found out that he was so traumatized. So, this young man has grown through the department, grown through the program, and now he's my second in our department. He is the deputy climate manager, and he helps support other young people to become successful in this program. So I'm excited to be here. I'm kind of torn because I want to be the panelist extraordinaire, but I also want to be the person that's sitting and writing everything down and listening and recording everything. So thank you so much, Caroline.
Don't worry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're recording it, so you'll get to play both roles. And that was an excellent opening for the next part of our conversation. Thank you so much. You shared a lot about what you're doing at Power Corps. And I think the most powerful part of your presentation is what's working. And that's what we want to get into next, because we've asked everyone to come to this roundtable with answers. We know that this work is hard work, it's challenging work, but we also know that every single day in communities all across this country, tremendous successes are unfolding. And so we want to talk about those successes, what's working. So we're going to go back to Marcus Elam. And Marcus, is this a good time for us to share the video that you sent us? Okay.
Yes.
Hello, my name is John B. Wood, and ReEntry matters to me. As a former inmate who served almost 26 years in the Virginia Department of Corrections, ReEntry planning was critical to my success. This included cognitive restructuring, thinking pro-socially, workforce planning, connection to resources, networking, and emotional planning for release. These efforts assisted me with family reunification, obtaining meaningful employment, and mentally transitioning from incarceration to freedom. I am now successfully employed with the Virginia Department of Corrections as a reentry specialist and subject matter specialist working directly in prison reentry. Thank you.
All right, Marcus, take it away.
Thank you again. I just want to reiterate how happy I am to be a part of this process and really to talk to you all today about who we are as an agency, how we've grown as an agency, and what we need to do and what we can do moving forward as an agency to truly be a key partner, because we are a key partner in the reentry efforts for those folks that are under our care and supervision. And when Caroline, when you originally asked me to be a part of this process and or asked our agency to be a part of this process, I really took a look at what we do and how would I send that message. And that video really summed it up in a few seconds in terms of describing who we are and what we should be about as a Department of Corrections. And I always look at that in one quick phrase: we should be about second chances. And that's really, as an agency, what we've always should have been about. And historically, obviously, we've not always taken that approach in terms of how we manage prisons and how we help prepare people for reentry back into the community. And that video really summarizes who we are as an agency now and what we should be about. And if we're going to talk about second chances, we should be modeling the way for everybody else. We can't send one message and then we practice something else. So in terms of opportunities for employment and in other areas, we should be helping model that and show what that looks like. And if we're willing to take those chances, then other folks would be more likely to do that. And that video is just one example, but in terms of environmental protections and services, we've also hired folks back who've served time with us in environmental services, such as wastewater treatment and buildings and grounds, and actually work in a few of our prisons. So, that's just one example where, we've tried to do our best to start modeling the way for those other folks in the community in terms of reentry. So really what I wanted to start off with is really talk about historically what we looked like in terms of reentry years ago. And again, I mentioned earlier, I've been with the department for 28 years, and I've seen us grown tremendously in that area. Do we have a room to grow and a ways to go? Of course we do. And part of understanding that where we need to go is really accepting where we were and what we looked like previously. And in terms of reentry, just giving a quick example of what we did in our approach to reentry. Obviously, we knew that people were going to be released back to the community, but our approach wasn't really specific to the needs of the individuals. We had a broad stroke in terms of reentry. Every individual that came into our system, we did things based on what we were used to doing in previous years. And obviously, that can be archaic. If you consider how prisons were run many, many, many years ago and the purpose of prisons when they first came into evolution, it wasn't about improving the conditions or preparing people to re-enter and stay out. It was house, manage, and control. And traditionally, that's where our efforts were, and that's what our approach was in the prison system in Virginia. So someone who came into our prison system, even when we knew they were getting out, we broad stroked everything. Everybody, they were going to get some level of education. They were going to get some vocation. They would get some programming, but it wasn't catered to the needs of the individual. And we know now, being smart and growing and learning, that that's not the way to help people get better, improve, and have opportunities when they're released. If we're not training people and educating people based on what's going on in the community now, we're doing them a disservice. So historically, that was our broad stroke to housing the men and women that were under our care and where we were in terms of reentry. Now, our current reentry focus really is based on an evidence-based approach. And what that means is we truly try to look at what the data shows, what research says helps people get better, helps people prepare for the community, for their release, and helps them stay out. And what we found, we know now is that we have to assess people's needs, and we can't manage people and supervise people solely based on their risk. Because when you think about it, everybody who's in prison has been convicted of a crime. So that's a wash. They can't change that. That is a static thing. They can't go back and undo their crime automatically. We know, the court system and all those things are in place to help in that process. But generally speaking, in terms of how we manage and work with individuals and help prepare them, we shouldn't be focused solely on what their crime was. We need to focus on what their needs are. Everybody comes to prison with different needs.
Yeah, can you tell us some of the ways in which you're doing that, just in the interest of time, because we want to give everybody a chance to respond.
Sure. So every individual that comes into contact with the Department of Corrections first gets an assessment. We sit down and we do an assessment on what their overall needs are and what their risks are. But we generally make sure that to do an assessment. The next step is identifying what your plan is going to be, what your case plan is. And that helps us determine where we're going to house you. And it also helps determine what your plan will be in terms of programming and resources. So along the way, as you progress and move through the Department of Corrections, 90%, 99%, as best we can based on space and based on services, we're giving you the programming and the services that you need as an individual that's going to help you prepare to get out and again, stay out. So we've evolved in that area. And that's one of the solutions, and we talked previously, that we have to continue to get better at, is really identifying what your services should be. And we talked about forestry and environmental services. We've not traditionally been involved in that, but obviously as we grow as an agency and as we develop partnerships and as we learn as an agency, we also have to make sure we understand that there's changes and trends in the community that we can be involved in that help provide the services that are going to help people stay out of prison. So that's one example of that.
Okay. Thank you so much. One of the things I recall from our conversation was that you're open to new partnerships, that you're looking for new
Yes.
ways to, okay.
You want me to touch on that for a moment?
Just quickly, please.
Yes. So one of the things that we have begun when the director started our new reentry process is reentry councils. And almost every community in Virginia is directly connected with the reentry council that includes social services and includes our chief probation officers. And what those councils do is identify resources, programs, services that are going to help provide those things to those folks that are getting released. So our department is really involved in that process in almost all the communities across the state of Virginia. And those reentry councils are really crucial for that.
Okay, wonderful. And one of the reasons we invited you was because it's been our understanding that the Virginia Department of Corrections has taken a holistic approach to working with people who end up having a prison experience, and that has resulted in a much lower rate of recidivism than other prisons across the country. So, we think that's really important. An important part of the discussion. And I invite the audience to please post your questions in our Q&A section. And if for some reason we don't get to all of the questions today, we will forward them on to all of our panelists. All right. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Bakur, do you want to talk about what's been working from your vantage point? What have you seen working?
I think it's crucial that I say that I work directly with formerly incarcerated people. Like, that is my community. I know what DLC is doing, and I know the effects of being housed in DLC, what it is on our community. And I want to also say that reentry our reentry, excuse me, our recidivism numbers are based on, you got to look at the criteria. A lot of these people are getting out when they're elderly, they're 50 and 60 years old. They're not young anymore, so they're not committing the crimes, and they're making an intelligent decision themselves not to go back out and commit these crimes, depending upon what supports they have. That is not provided by DLC or any other governmental agency, is provided by the community. It's not based off of what DLC says. And I keep hearing, and I had to address Harold Clark about the same thing when he reported the wrong numbers about recidivism in the state of Virginia. Recidivism is based on the individual's decision to not commit a crime, normally based off of economics. So let's get that straight here. And so if somebody is being released into the same situation or worse than what they were when they went in, it is more likely that they are going to commit a crime again. And I know this for a fact because I am one of those ones who was released into a worse situation, and I went right back out and went right back into white collar crime. Because I couldn't get a job that would afford to take care of my family. $725 was not gonna make it. And so I banked off of my knowledge of knowing the law and being able to maneuver within the judicial system to make sure that I can provide for my family. And I'm not apologetic for what I have done in my life. That was just the path that was for me. Luckily, I'm not in that same situation anymore, but we got to start telling the truth. The DLC cannot do its mission without the community. I told our director, you have to start using the community. You will never be as successful as it can be if it don't start incorporating the community. We have tons and tons of community organizations here in Virginia that is bridging the gap on resources that the system does not provide for these individuals. And we can even go while we're talking about environmentalism. COVID is an environmental injustice in which we sat there and allowed, I call them loved ones, not inmates, loved ones to die in prison. And I just got out of the hospital, suffered with COVID for 2 months. Yeah, and I'm in a setting where there's doctors and everything. I had everything I needed. I couldn't imagine being in prison with COVID. We did not do what we were supposed to do by releasing those that were a year and less. So I want our Department of Corrections to start telling the truth so that we can really get down to the work that we need to be doing in this state and around this country. And we're never going to be able to do it until we start telling the truth and stop trying to glorify something that is not really happening. And we know also, because I know several of the inmates who created the reentry programs that were used inside DLC, because the ones that were created by DLC was ineffective and inefficient. And I actually got a copy of one of them in my office over there that was done by Ms Shabazz, who spent 22 years in DLC corrections. So, you know, when we're talking about reentry, let's really find out who's doing these reentry programs, if it's the loved ones, i.e. the inmates in there, or if it's really coming from DLC.
Okay, thank you so much. So the challenge is out there. Marcus, I'm going to ask you to respond quickly, and then I have to bring in Alex Smith. I am so sorry I did not get Alex in the first round of presentations, but Marcus, would you like to respond?
Sure, and I really appreciate Ms. Shabazz's candor, and I appreciate her just her overall response. I can't articulate or argue with numbers. I don't have those in front of me, but I will say this, especially, and I agree with her emphatically on this. Partnerships are huge, and I will acknowledge for a long time as an agency, we focused on ourselves and what we thought what we should be doing. We didn't really listen to the community. We didn't really involve them in decision making. We didn't involve them, get their opinions on resources and services. We really didn't focus on that reentry aspect. But I do know we are doing that now. Part of what is huge with our reentry model is the collaboration with partners outside of the agency. Again, one of the things I mentioned was the reentry councils, and those reentry councils include a lot of resources, and they're focused on the local communities that they serve. So a reentry council for Richmond, focused on the Richmond metropolitan area and generally communities in and surrounding the Richmond area. Same with Hampton Roads and Tidewater, Southwest Virginia. So we are making those efforts, and we do have those things in place to help. Do we need to get better? Obviously, we have to get better. COVID hurt that a lot, obviously. But we do have those partnerships, and we're looking to forge new ones. And we're always looking to increase those partnerships, because that is true. What she said, we can't provide the services, that continuum of services and the wraparound services that everybody needs when they're released to be successful. I agree with her wholeheartedly on that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So next year, this time, I'm looking forward to hearing about what your new partnership with Ms. Shabazz has.
And I will definitely I would love to sit down and have a conversation with you too, because I really appreciate your passion and your vigor in this area too. I would love to be able to do that.
Well, that's why we're here. Thank you so much. All right, Alex Smith is the owner of Division Street Landscaping in Baltimore, and talk about a success story. Talk about somebody who has answers. Alex Smith is the man. So Alex, please let everybody know who you are, what you've been up to, and what you found that's working for you and working for others in the reentry community.
You're on mute.
Well, I think you said it all when you said I was the man. That's pretty much it. Seriously. Well, my name is Alex Smith. I'm here in Baltimore. I run and I founded Division Street Landscaping. We are fully staffed by ex-offenders, and we are what would consider opportunity development. We have a whole bunch of workforce development efforts going on in our city. And I think that if there are no companies at the end that are willing to hire our guys, then those efforts are futile. So what I did after creating a workforce development that I wasn't really all that pleased with was started a company. And, we really put people to work. We really give people chances, and we hit the streets. Like, we go in the trenches to get our guys, and we pull them out, give them opportunities, and and some of them hang on, and some of them go on to do great things. There are a lot of guys who are now starting their own businesses, and my phone and my home is always open to them for any questions they have to get them where they need to be. Because this industry is so, I want to say welcoming, but that's not the right word. But the opportunities are here for a guy to really be a solo operator and make a six-figure income. And a lot of times in the reentry process, a lot of times in the workforce development process, what they don't really consider are the unique situations that people who are formerly incarcerated have faced. So, for instance, if you are like myself, went in at 18 and came out at 33, that means I'm not paying into Social Security, I'm not paying into a retirement fund, none of these things apply to me. So just signing me up and getting me a job at Wendy's or one of these warehouses is not going to work for my future. So we have to consider things like entrepreneurship. We have to consider things like investing and taking a couple risks with, in a legitimate way of securing our future. And that's what we do at Division Street. We try to address all these needs in-house. It's rewarding. It's difficult, but it's rewarding to see guys really start to get it. Some of my guys don't even have lawns. They got a marble step and a concrete backyard. And so to get those guys from there to the point where, they're operating machinery, chippers, zero turns, and doing it in a professional manner, is really rewarding.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Alex, I want to just point out two things that came up in our conversation. One was that you mentioned that a couple of times during your stint on probation or parole, there were opportunities for companies to be there and to offer job opportunities to you and the 20, 30, or 40 other people who were getting out of prison. But in every case, there were no companies there. There were no job offers waiting for you. And that's obviously when people are trying to get back into the community to restore their lives, you know, that's a critical need for them. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So each day you have, I would just approximate at about 50 people getting out of prisons and jails in Baltimore. And that's not to count the people who are just being sentenced to probation that never go in, you know, that never serve time, but they get sentenced to probation. One of the terms of probation and parole is that you must be gainfully employed. That in and of itself says that you have a pool of men and women that have to work. And so if you're an industry that's saying that we are struggling finding employees, I mean, you could just sit outside the front door of the parole office and scoop them up. But these efforts never happen. And so like what Grady said about falling through the gap, that happens more often than not. It happened for me. The Nicole said it happened to her. I mean, this is what, when we get out of prison, nobody's looking for us. And we, as a, you know, especially in the Black community, we don't have the social capital that, you know, as a safety net. Nobody in my family could give me a job. Nobody in my family was a business owner that could say, hey, I see you at work on Monday morning. I'm glad you're home. That didn't happen for me. You know, so when I had trouble finding work, I went to the place that was always accepted, and that was the block. You know, there's no resume required. As long as you got guts, you know, you can go on there and get work. So the other part of it is, you know, when you want to get to this legitimate where you got to have people who understand it, people who get it, you know, and get it in a real way. And a lot of times that's also missing. You know, when we coming up with these programs, the people that are coming up with the programs really, really, really get what it is to be an ex-offender. And most times they don't, you know, and I told you this before, it's like, man, if I'm not an astronaut, I don't know what it's like to be in space.
Right. And so you found an answer. You created an answer. You innovated. You created curriculum for other guys like you who were coming out and who needed not just a seasonal job, planting trees or clearing, you know, forested areas, but who really needed training that would lead to long-term employment. You want to tell us a little bit about the curriculum?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was working at the Baltimore Tree Trust, and I was at the director of operations. And one of the things that I noticed there that they were using seasonal labor, you know, and then I looked around at the city was doing the same thing. But as I drive up and down Baltimore, I see, you know, trees that need to be, you know, blocks with no trees that need to be taken down, you know, and even when we get out of environmental stuff like trees and the vacant lots and all that stuff, we got potholes everywhere. The same city that incarcerated is going to be the same city that creates opportunity to help us build it back up. But that's not what's happening. So when I was at the Tree Trust, I created a program called Urban Roots Apprenticeship. And that was designed to really connect employers with the employees of the Tree Trust, with the seasonal employees of the Tree Trust, and say, hey, we got these guys out here, they planting trees, you know, they taking care of trees, they're showing up, they're learning, come out here, work with them, let's do a site together. If you identify a guy too that you might want to bring onto your team, you know, tell them where the office is so they can come there Monday morning. And that's really what we wanted to, what I wanted to do with the program. The problem is a lot of times grants have requirements of completion. And completion is get through this program, not get a job.
Right.
And when the companies like myself, you know, I have the most difficult time getting employees from programs because it'll be a classroom full of guys, men and women sitting there wanting jobs. I can't get them because they haven't completed the program yet. So they're not letting them go. But when I need people, I need them now. And that's one of the things that led me back to the block. Because I go to the block and I say, man, I need who tired, who done. Let's go to work. You know, and we give them shots.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's an important part of wanting to be a partner is understanding the needs of the people that you say you want to help, the people you say you want to support. It cannot be tailored completely to an organization's needs or a grant maker's needs. It can't be a success if we don't have opportunities for people to be gainfully employed from that experience. So thank you for offering that. So I want to circle back to Brady. Do you want to tell us about what's been working from your vantage point?
Absolutely. And in my, I guess in my little nervousness, I forgot to really thank Kelly Bush and the folks at SPP, Evergreen State College up here in Washington, for the connection and for the support they do with us. You know, there's been a lot. You know, there's an old adage that says it takes a village to raise a child. But if you got a village for the criminals, what kind of child are we going to get? So we have to understand, and this is what Sister Shabazz was saying, is that this one size fits all reentry plan ain't working. It's not working because I may need the normal reentry resources, you know, because I have some additional, but the guy that needs that intense stuff, he's going to be just like Alex says, man, let me go back to the block. This stuff is way too much work. It's way too much headache. Let me get back in. So we have to begin to even understand, you know, that the reentry even starts when the person first steps into the system. That's when the reentry starts. It starts right then. And so, well, you know, and this is why I volunteer for Roots of Success, trust me. And it's because we don't just address, you know, different things. We look at how can we connect back? How can we be more efficient? What is our impact going forward? What is our carbon footprint going to look like? So we address, you know, energy waste and all this, but also, and this goes directly out, that's why I started smiling when he said it. We also teach about financial literacy because you got to understand your money. You know what I mean? You got to understand and how to use it, you know, in order to know it. If not, you just gonna go make some money and spend it on everything in the world if you don't understand it. You know, I think it was Ron Finley that said, man, if kids grow kale, kids gonna eat kale. Man, if you get somebody that goes out and work for that money and understands his money, he's gonna appreciate it and he's gonna put it to work in a very, very effective way. The other thing we teach is social entrepreneurship. And that's understanding. Some people don't even know what a mission statement is. They don't know what a vision statement. What are those things? Let alone what an executive summary for a business plan is. And then how to get our money. How do we get it? I teach this stuff. Listen to this. I've taught this for years. I came out and forgot it. When I was released after 37 years, let me put this in perspective. I was incarcerated in 1983. I did not get out until 2021. Not one DLC official said, hey, Mitchell, do you need any mental health counseling? Hey, Mitchell, do you need anywhere to go? No, they was like, okay, Mitchell, you're getting released. Man, we're glad to see, you know, we hate to see you go, but you know what I mean? And I'm not saying anything bad about DLC. What I'm saying is they have some things that need to be fixed. And so as opposed to me being on the side of this, to say, well, I'm just going to sit and complain and shout and scream from the mountaintop. I've been trained from Roots of Success and community organizing module, how to now become involved to affect this change. How to, and Alex said it perfect. We're not the only ones falling through these gaps. We're not the only ones falling through these gaps. There's a lot of other brothers and sisters that are coming behind us. When I say brothers and sisters, I'm not identifying race. I'm identifying humanity. That are also falling through these cracks. There was just one other thing that I did want to say, and that is the connection from these programs inside of prison to an employer, like Alex says, is very, very important. We're working with the state of Oregon right now developing that. And we're developing, so when you go through the program, man, an employer is going to already know that you've been through the program, what you know, and ready to hire you on the spot. It's no longer this big gap to go out, try to find it and let that discouragement come in and things like that. Because there's enough, you know, when you get released with $40 gate money, your ID card costs $57, you're already $17 in the hole. So you're already in the hole financially. And so you need that job because now you don't have anyone giving you underwear, deodorant, toothpaste, and things like that. You got to buy all that stuff. You know, so these things come. So when we connect them into that, hopefully Washington State will follow this guide where I'm at, is that they immediately have a job and they immediately understand the need. And while it's not a total wraparound, other places can give the rest of the wraparound. But getting that individual into an employment and not just doing the work, but understanding why they.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Brady. We're going to go ahead and try to get some answers to some of the questions that our audience has posed. The first one we have here, I think, Shelly, this might be a good question for you. What are specific ways that environmental engagement and green jobs have spoken to the needs of people who are involved in reentry programs?
Well, one of the things that I love about AmeriCorps and PowerCorps is the fact that we introduce environmental stewardship to members, and you know, again, the majority of them fall in love with that process. But you also have people who don't want to be outside and don't want to be exposed to bugs and things like that. And so PowerCorps, we share that PowerCorps is a foundation, and they can build the foundation of their career at PowerCorps because we expose them to so many other career opportunities in the various fields, and it's based on their interests. So they talk to our workforce development advisors and say, hey, listen, I'm interested in music. I'll do the environmental stewardship stuff, but I'm really not interested in doing this. I want to, be a musician. And so they can utilize their education award, which is about $1,600 earned over a 4-month period to sign up and go to, a Temple and take a course at Temple. So it's not just trying to convince someone to stay in that realm, but most of them fall in love with the work and are exposed to things like urban forestry, urban agriculture, stormwater infrastructure, green stormwater infrastructure, building rain gardens throughout the city of Philadelphia to address and mitigate stormwater. So it's amazing to see the transformation of someone who is complaining in the beginning, but they're taught so many other things. We have to deal with things like teaching de-escalation, coping skills, stress management, because as Alex had mentioned before, you're released and okay, there's no mental health offered. So when members when they come to us, there's a lot of barriers to not only being successful in our program, but being successful with any other employer. So we have to address those issues. We teach them, and it goes to as basic as communication skills, code switching, which I know a lot of people hate that term, but it's real. So those are some of the factors that we address so that, they can understand the environment that they're living in. There's been occasions where, members live in a community and never went to the park for anything other than a picnic or a barbecue and didn't know that things existed in that park. So that, you know, for me, having this conversation is deeper for me, because I want to take this all the way back to like what we've done in schools and what we're not doing in schools, where that connection has even broken, even in terms of families. But you know, as he said before, that mental health process definitely we need to, you know, have those supports. We do have those supports in Power Corps. We have them in the supportive services department, where they connect members externally and internally to, you know, support so that they can overcome barriers.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I know that a number of the panelists here have talked about the healing aspects of being in the environment as being part of, you know, a therapy that they experience after they leave prison. And so, you know, there's so many different ways in which to engage with the environment, which I think all of the programs that have been talked about here allow people to do. And so we just want to, you know, think about the power of being in nature and what that can do for people who are re-entering their communities. We have just about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you to just quickly respond to the questions that we have so that we can get as many in as possible. We have a question to Alex that asks, what drove your interest in landscape services? And did you have a vision for Division Street while you were still having a prison experience?
Mute.
Alex, I'm sorry, you're muted.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, absolutely. So while I was incarcerated, I was one of a group of guys who helped start a horticulture program while we were inside. And I actually became a master gardener while I was in prison. And, you know, I got all the business for dummy books and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, was working on it. I had a business plan. I started teaching myself Spanish and all that stuff while I was incarcerated, just because I knew what industry I was trying to go into. However, I didn't go straight to that. You know, what I saw of the industry didn't look like. So I didn't go to that. I went into like warehouse work and stuff like that, and ended up at Longwood Gardens on a construction site, you know, and I didn't even understand that, you know, operating skid loaders and mini excavators and all that stuff would apply in landscape. And, you know, I would like to say that it was my plan, but I think it was kind of like a bigger plan for me to do what I do, and, you know, to be in the positions that I've been in and to meet the people that I've met. You know, because when I messed up the first time and I came out, it was actually an entrepreneur that gave me a job. It was a homeboy said, hey, my homeboy got a contracting business. He'll give you a job. And it was just like that. And I realized the power of being able to create something that you can really just like, no interview. You don't have to put a suit and tie on and go tell some lies to somebody. Like it was, I went and got a job, and I respected that man. He's still a mentor to this day, but I realized the power of what entrepreneurship can do. And so I had it in the back of my mind, and when an opportunity came, I started. We've been around since 2017. I was still with the Tree Trust for a couple more years, but actually I took a trip to, it was during my trip to Alabama, my first trip to Alabama, the Gulf Shores. And I was thinking about what I was going to do. When I came back, I left the Tree Trust, and it's been all Division Street, you know, for the last couple of years. And, you know, it's been good, but it wasn't, I would like to take credit for it, but I can't. Just things in my life has led me to be where I am. And I just feel fortunate, so I share it with other people.
Wonderful. It sounds like you were listening to your needs and listening to what the landscaping industry needed. And that allowed you to make the move.
And it's a low, as far as businesses are concerned,
low barrier to entry.
Yeah, it's a low barrier to entry, but a single operator can earn 100 grand a year by itself easily.
Mm.
And so it's also lucrative. So it's perfect.
I think that barrier to entry is really, really important because.
Yeah, when I started, I was putting I was doing stuff with a Cadillac. I bought an old F-150, and because I was like, I'm not putting a lawnmower on the back of my Cadillac, So so I just started. I bought an old F-150, with some advice from a guy that I was working in construction with, and I started from there. And I actually did my grandmother's yard, as a present to her for Mother's Day, and the neighbor saw it, and another neighbor heard about it, and it's been on ever since.
Okay. One other question for you, Alex, quickly. What was the name of the curriculum that you developed while you were at the Baltimore Tree Trust? And people want to know how they might be able to get it.
Well, that was Urban Roots Apprenticeship.
Urban Roots Apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship. That was the name of the program. But I don't know how we connected with each other now. But if you want a curriculum, you just contact me and we can work it out.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked, Beatrice, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, if the National Park Service has any programs for assistance with jobs. You don't work at the National Park Service, but you're only federal employee on here, so I got that.
I can say that National Park Service, as well as Forest Service, offers assistance with regard to workforce through our conservation core work. Shelly through Power Corps has seen through the larger network of core groups that there are conservation corps. So National Park Service does offer some conservation corps assignments and opportunities, and I will try to quickly look through on Google and post a link in chat. And the Forest Service also, we have a workforce and component to the Forest Service, as we have National Forest and Grasslands. And they are an opportunity for folks to engage and be introduced, but also have gainful employment opportunities. And then as far also with the Forest Service, we have Job Corps centers that often have conservation trades as well as other trades throughout the Job Corps system. But just to name a few, there are opportunities through Park Service and Forest Service.
Okay, thank you. Someone asked about how to contact the speakers. We will provide speaker information for everybody who's registered for this session today. And if there's additional information that's been provided by the speakers, we'll include that in our email to you as well. Someone has asked, says, I'm working on my certification in nature and forest therapy to provide walks to formerly incarcerated in other communities. I've volunteered with my area DOC in the past for other types of services, but not sure how to get involved in offering that service. So does anyone have any tips of the type of organizations and people to reach out to for nature and forest therapy sessions?
Well, I can chime in just a little bit on this one. I don't know what's available in the area that they're contacting from, but normally there are local community colleges or colleges that work inside of, they have annexations inside of prisons. I know in this state is Evergreen State College. They do a lot of environmental work here. And so that may be an avenue to get in with DOC because they work directly with DOC here. And so that's just a suggestion.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And we don't have the area where that person was from. So perhaps she can email us and let us know, and we can let you guys know. So we also have a question from Charlotte that says, would love to see these motivated young men to establish a consumer-supported agricultural program, a CSA, in urban areas. I'm not familiar with CSAs, but does somebody want to address that? Consumer Supported Agriculture Program.
Well, hey, it's part of our curriculum.
Oh, it is?
Absolutely. That's always, I just didn't want to monopolize time.
Okay.
Absolutely. We have currently amongst some of the gentlemen, and we now offer apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship that's recognized by the Department of Labor federally. So, but a lot of graduates for the program, they take it upon themselves to begin the CSAs in the community, actually. And so, and what they do is they even start their own community gardens. They develop programs to where they will go out to farms and bring fresh produce back into the communities. And there, there one guy actually in Tacoma, he started a program where he connected with a local farmer. And what they do is they supply, he went to his neighborhood, which is in the hood. He went through and he not only say, okay, well, what vegetables do you eat? What produce do you want? And so he'll go and he box them up, but he not only delivers them, he teaches them how to cook. So they don't just teach all the food out of the product, cook all the nutrients out of the products and things like that. And those things were inspired from him, were inspired while he was incarcerated. And there's another one that's incarcerated right now, has a proposal for a really huge community garden in Pierce County, which I'm excited about. And I've been working with him real closely once he makes the return to citizenship.
Okay, thank you so much. We have 2 more questions we're going to try to squeeze in. One of them is anyone on the line running entrepreneurship programs for re-entrants? So is anybody familiar with programs that are available for entrepreneurship? Is this something the Virginia Department of Corrections has looked into, Marcus, or would be interested in supporting?
I'm not aware of anything that we've done, but I certainly would like to know more information about it. I mean, that's, especially in terms of partnerships and access to provide information to the folks that we have. I mean, to me, that's a great opportunity, especially in terms of reentry program. And I think that would be a great resource.
Okay, thank
So
you.
when we talk about entrepreneurship, Caroline, there's a program, it's called Prison Entrepreneurship Program. And they begin to work inside the prison with individuals and connect them, set them up. And they also work with retirees. I think it's SCORE. They're connected and partners with SCORE. So that would be a great place to start. It's called PEP for short, but it's Prison Entrepreneurship Program.
Okay.
And we have someone who is responsible for our reentry program services. And I would definitely get that information to her. That would definitely be something we should look into.
Okay, thank you. Final question, in general, what are some of the successful partnerships that seem to be working? And this is open for anyone who knows of some successful partnerships that seem to be working.
Can I answer
I'd like
that?
to talk about maybe a quick, please go ahead, Shelly.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
go ahead.
You can. I
Okay,
can go after you.
real quick. One of the things that is an amazing process, and Marcus, you have kind of spoke to that, but in the city of Philadelphia, we have an amazing partnership with the mayor's office, with the district attorney's office, with judges, and we're forging the partnership with the prison commission and the head of corrections. So the more that we have a beneficial partnership and people sitting at the table, the better the services. For example, so the conversation about how penal probation and parole is that's in the beginning of being addressed, and our members' voices served to help that process be driven. Another benefit is that the home where members are serving their probation at home, so house arrest.
Home detention.
Yes, home detention. I'm sorry. That's there are guidelines that are being changed and worked on to support our members in being able to stay with the program and be successful with the program while being on house arrest. So there are ways to forge these partnerships, and we just, having people that have open minds. And a part of what has happened in the city of Philadelphia is that we are working to address the stigma. And the only way that you can do that is by putting people up that have overcome and challenged what we know about reentry and what we know about what people are capable of. But there's a lot that goes to that. So that's one of the things that, Power Corps addresses and has done successfully. But part of that success for us is that we self-examine all the time. We question what we do, and we look at the successes and the challenges.
Thank you for that, Shelly. I think that's an excellent point that you brought up at the end about self-examination. It's not just those who've had a prison experience that need to examine what their experience has been and who they are, but it's all of us. So Marcus, I'm going to let you address the question about success, and then I want K2 to have the last word since he opened this up so eloquently with this discussion.
Sure, and I'll try to be quick. Grady mentioned earlier the IDs for individuals that are getting released and the cost of that. And I think a lot of people, he hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of people really underestimate not even just the cost of that, but the importance of that in terms of someone being successful when they're released. You can't apply for a job. You can't go to the bank. There's a lot of things that we all know that we take for granted every day because we either have a DMV ID or a driver's license. So one of the things that we really do well with our agency is partner with the Division of Motor Vehicles. And we have DMV Connect that comes into the institutions when someone's at a certain stage for release from incarceration that ensures that they walk out with an ID. We don't obviously address the driver's license because that's a different issue that has to be taken care of at the DMV. But we make sure that the individuals walk out with a valid ID, so that immediate need, the moment they walk out the door, is not missed 2, 3, 4 weeks later when those services are critical to having an ID. The other thing is, and we've been doing a really good job of this and we're improving all along, is how we connect the continuum services from someone who's incarcerated to someone who goes out on supervision. And what we've done is hired reentry officers that work out of the probation offices in our prisons, and it's related to the encatchment area for where someone's being released. So what that person is responsible for doing, really assessing the needs of the person when they're released. So if there's a mental health need for services, medications, other types of services, this person's responsible for ensuring that when that person walks out the door, they've got an appointment. They've got a supply of medications as opposed to having to walk around and not have those for a period of time. So that's evolving constantly, and that's a reentry focus in our overall Virginia reentry plan that was developed several years ago. And I think the last thing I'll mention critically is, go right ahead, I'm sorry. No, you go right ahead. I can talk all day, I'm sorry.
Well, I want to make sure we get people out here on time, but I would ask you to submit that to us in an email, because we will send emails out to everybody with all of your responses. And I think success stories, they're interested in relationships between environmental organizations and community groups, environmental organizations and businesses that have been successful. So if you guys have some other information that people could use, that would be really, really helpful. So K2, do you have some final words for us?
This has been an enlightening conversation. The thing that I draw from this is the need for collective engagement. There are so many on this roundtable. There are so many people who have found answers that apply individually from their individual perspective, their individual program, cross-pollinating and continuing the conversation with one another on a formal basis, not just an informal basis, but on a formal basis, so that you understand that there is no answer in the institution. Reentry is about what starts in the joint. Grady and Alex are testament to that. Their reentry started long before they got out, before those doors opened. And there are people inside that need to be tapped for the reentry process. There are people who are in there. They may be lifers, but they are counselors, they are mentors, they are gurus for people who are coming back out here. And that's where the reentry process really needs to start. Peace.
Thank you so much. Those are just the right words for us to close on, knowing that this is not the end of anything, but it is the beginning of a conversation. It's the beginning of a revolution. And I hope that you all will stay in touch with us, stay in touch with the panelists, and help us continue this conversation so that a year from now, really a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, you can report back on some of the changes that have happened because you were able to speak to these people and to tap into their wisdom and their expertise. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. We appreciate you. You have really given us so much to work with today. We look forward to staying engaged with you. Thank you for our audience for joining us. Thank you for this wonderful team that's been behind us. We appreciate you, Vanessa Young, Ben Israel, Eliza Kava, all of the Audubon Naturalist Society team. Thank you so much. Vince Robinson, who is our social media manager and created a lot of really wonderful marketing materials for us. We thank you too. So enjoy your afternoon and your evening, and I look forward to hearing about the progress that's happened as a result of the experience today. Thank you again.
Caroline.